Hello, I am Minecraft Phenom 08, and this is episode 74 in my Automate Everything Minecraft series. In today's episode, I am going to attempt to make the largest possible fission reactor using the default configuration file from the mod NuclearCraft that I possibly can. So the first few things I need to grab is obviously a fission controller and a bunch of fission reactor casings, as well as a builder's wand, because that will kind of be necessary for building a reactor this large. Okay, oh my goodness. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is I need to have a location, but I already have one picked out. I have a teleportation network set up to go there, so let's go there now. Now, this is the location to where I am going to build my fission reactor, and I have some of the things marked out with cobblestone. But let's take a look at the surrounding territory. Right here is my main base. Here is my NuclearCraft 2 fission reactor setup. And here is where we're building today. It's quite a ways away from my main base, but it's not too far from my NuclearCraft fission reactors. So let's get started. The largest reactor by the default configuration file is 24 by 24 by 24, I believe. So let's get started. And like I said, I already have this cobblestone already all marked out so that I know that I need to build it that big, and I need more wands. Okay, so let's get this in the right mode real fast so we don't accidentally build in the wrong direction, because that would be bad. And then that should be the final one there. And then next I need to build the sides, and they actually are offset. If you've watched me build NuclearCraft stuff before, you know this already, but if you haven't, then essentially you're creating a giant interior in which we're going to place a bunch of blocks later. Okay, so I'm going to go all the way around here, and then I can build up all in one fell swoop. And I don't know if there's anything behind me, but I really hope not. There is. There's cobblestone. While we're at it, we might as well just get rid of this cobblestone that I'm using as markers. Okay, so we almost have the bottom and the sides all ready to be built up. I do have a height marker up there, so I know exactly how high I need to go. Once again, I need to switch the mode on this thing. Not that mode, because I need it to wrap all the way around. There we go. And this does use quite a few of the fission reactor casings, but I do have enough. I should have enough built, so I shouldn't have to worry about that. I just should have to grab them and build with them. Okay, so let's go back over here, because this is where our marker is. And my wand is broke again. Kind of figured that would happen. Whoa, a little skippage right there. Okay, that should be as high as she goes. And then next I need to build the roof here, which is simply just built like this. So after all is said and done, the total exterior dimension of the reactor should be 24 by 24 by 24, unless I miscounted somewhere, in which case, I'm sorry, but I'm fooling everyone, including myself, if I did. So there we go. We got the shell of the reactor done. Next thing we need to do is we need to place down the actual controller, and it's not going to look great, but I'm going to put it right here. Uh-oh. I messed up somewhere. I miscounted somewhere. And I may have another issue. I may actually be able to build this bigger. When I looked at the config file and it said 24 by 24 by 24, I'm wondering if that did not mean the... the actual dimensions of like the interior. you know what? I'm going to resize this reactor so it says 24 by 24 by 24. And I'm going to do that off camera because that's going to take a little bit of time because I'm going to have to move like most of the walls. So after I have that done, I will be right back. And here we are. Here is my reactor right here. And to prove that it is 24 by 24 by 24, let's look at this. So obviously the next thing we need to do is we need to set up the interior. Now, there are a lot of different ways I could go with this, but I think the best way to build this reactor would be to not actually target a fuel type and just build a design and be very cautious about heat. And that is because we have a lot of different fuel types to choose from. If we go to at NuclearCraft here, and I don't know why it's not doing. Okay, there we go. We have a lot of different fuel types. Some that produce basically no heat, and some that produce a lot of heat. If we go to like the Californium fuels, yeah. So anywhere from 900 heat per tick to something like 18 heat per tick. So as long as we carefully design the interior here, there should be a fuel type that we can choose for the reactor after it's all built that will provide a lot of power and not overheat the reactor. So let's start off by finding the metal here. And there will actually be like 4 metal blocks here. So let's grab some reactor cells, which are where the fuel is actually kept. And they are these things right here. I actually shouldn't have got rid of all those. And then we're going to need a lot of coolers. A lot of different types of coolers. So, okay, so I need to go over the rules real fast. We're not going to be using copper because I probably won't use glowstone. I'm going to be using a lot of cryothium coolers. So let's tell this system to make something like 800 of them. Diamond. Water and quartz. Probably not a whole lot of that. I'm not going to be using moderators, so I won't be using emerald coolers. Let's make 8 of these because I can use these in the corners of the reactor. We can actually start there. I probably won't be using glowstone. I will probably be using some gold. I will probably be using some lapis. So let's go ahead and tell this to make 500 gold, 500 lapis. And that means I also need redstone, so let's make 500 of those. I do have some empty coolers being built as I speak right now. So like I said, let's start off with the corners here. And sorry if it's so dark. Let me see if I can't light this place up just a little bit. Thankfully, I think some of the coolers actually provide light themselves. These Enderium coolers only work if they're in the corner. They have to touch 3 reactor casings. So obviously the only real place you can place those are the corners. So next let's get some light. It doesn't need to be a whole lot, but a little light will help. So okay, so what are the lapis rules? Must touch 1 reactor cell and 1 reactor casing. So they will be useful for the bottom and the top and the sides. So actually my back pattern is probably going to be a little bit different here. How should I do this? Can I do a pattern? Actually going to have to do something different in the middle here. I misplaced that block because I'll have like that. Let's place some preliminary reactor cells right here. You know what? I think I want to move those down 1 because then I can use lapis on the bottom. Let me see what other options we have. And if I move them over 1 as well, I can use lapis on the sides, which will make things just a little bit easier. I think I'm going to do that. Unfortunately, reactor design is actually very complicated, especially when you're dealing with something this large. So let's retry this. And I think the pattern in the middle will actually be, okay, so there's 4 over there, 5, 5. It'll be more or less the same, actually. I'm trying to pick up all these lapis coolers on the ground. Not having a whole lot of success, though. So then my pattern on top of that will be reactor cells here. Not super sure if I actually want. I'm going to be building a lot of heat if I do it this way. Hopefully I'll be able to dissipate all that heat. Okay, so what can I use on reactor casings that might be able to go right here? I might be able to use water. Nope. Reactor cell or moderator. I think there's something that I can touch the casing with. Maybe there's not. I might need to break out some liquid helium coolers. I know I've failed to use that in the past, in a few cases in which I could have, and they're actually very good coolers. I'll probably need some of these as well. Oh, tin coolers. Definitely be able to use some tin coolers. So let's tell this to make 500 of those. Okay, so let's actually build the back out. What I'm going to do, and I can do some of this off camera, is I'm going to extend this pattern all the way up the reactor wall. So just basically every other block here is going to be lapis, except when I get to the middle point, in which case, okay, so that's what, 5, 6. Okay, yeah, that'll actually work well. Okay, so there's 6 there. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so no, I built that wrong. There needs to be 1 there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is extend this pattern all the way across. It's basically going to be like almost a checkerboard. And once I have that done, I will be right back, because that's going to take quite a while. So I'm going to be right back. Okay, hopefully, as you can see, I have a bunch of reactor cells placed as well as lapis coolers. The next step I'm going to do is I'm going to place a bunch of tin coolers, and they will go between all of the lapis coolers that are in a line. Now, the description is must be between two active lapis coolers along the same axis. So I can put it here, here, basically between most of my lapis coolers, except for in the corners. So that's going to be the next step here. And this is also going to take quite a while. So after I get all the way around here, I will do one on the back wall, that is, and then I can do the rest of them off camera. So let me just show the completed pattern. Okay, so I can also do them along the back wall here. So basically, but anywhere where I have 2 lapis coolers in a line, horizontal or vertical, I will have tin coolers between them, and once I have all of that done, I will be right back. Now that I have all of the tin coolers placed along the back wall, I'm going to start placing cryotherm coolers. And these coolers must touch at least 2 reactor cells, so they will fit nicely between all of these reactor cells in a configuration, just anywhere where there's a gap between 2 reactor cells, which is a lot of places in this current design. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill up all the spaces between these reactor cells with these cryotherm coolers. And I can go ahead and do most of this off camera because this is also going to take quite a while. So once I have that done, I will be right back. And here we are. I have all of the cryotherm blocks placed for right now anyways. And here is the design so far. What I'm going to do now is I think I'm going to play test this and see exactly how positive or negative we are on heat. So to do that, I need to grab some fission reactor casings. I need to grab a couple actually, and then I need to grab some type of fuel. So what fuels do I have? I don't super want to use TBU oxide because it is one of the lighter heat fuels. Do I have any LU? Okay, so this is kind of this provides quite a bit more heat than the TBU fuel. So let's see what this will do if I punch this in. We're really hoping to see a strong negative number. And we do. Because once I start building this reactor across the room, as in just kind of like extend the design this way, or towards the opening here, we will produce more and more heat because we will have reactor cells beside each other. Right now, there are really very few reactor cells beside each other. We have some in the middle here and then like right here. But for the most part, we don't have a whole lot of reactor cells beside each other. Most of them are completely separated by these cryothium coolers. But due to how the mod itself calculates energy generated and heat generated, when we have reactor cells beside each other or adjacent to each other, they will provide a lot more heat. So the next step in this build is for me to actually bring this reactor across. But before I do that, I'm going to double check that there aren't more coolers that I can use, because I do have some empty space in my reactor as it stands. So I'm looking to see if there's any way I can possibly cool down the reactor a little bit more. I don't really think there is. I think my design in general is not the best, but hopefully it'll work well enough. Yeah, I don't think there's going to be anything I can do. Yep. Okay, so this is going to be the design. We're just going to be using lapis, tin, and cryothium as our cooler types. So unfortunately, I made some cooler types. I'm not going to be using like gold and redstone, but you know, whatever. So what I'm going to do off camera is I'm going to build this probably halfway across the room and then test it again. And hopefully the design still is providing a negative number in terms of the heat output. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera. That's going to take a lot of time to do. So once I have that done, I will be back. And here is my mostly complete reactor. I have all of the interior filled up. Now all I have to do is seal up the side here. It was just easier to build completely out to the side, so I just took the side off. So now all I have to do is build this up and then build it out. And then we need to figure out what kind of fuel I'm going to use in this thing, because I would like to run this at least some of the time, because obviously it's a pretty awesome reactor. So yeah, let's get building. Obviously having builder's wands helps in this case. And let's see here. I knew it would fracture. And we're probably going to fracture one more time. No, we're not. Okay, that looks good. Oh, no. I don't know why that blocked it in place, but that's cool. Anyways, this should be all ready to go. Let's see here. Okay, so that's weird. It should not have had... Oh, it's a K. That threw me off. I thought it was H, only minus 1,173 H per tick, but it's kilo. Okay, so now we need to figure out what fuel we have, or what fuels we can use in this reactor. I have several picked out, and I have them basically in ascending order of how much heat they produce. Let's start off with one of the fuels in the middle. Let's start off with this. Will this work? Yes, but just, well, in terms of how this reactor is going to be, just barely. We might be able to do the LAP fuel, and that would be great if we could. So let's try this next, because this is a little bit hotter. So let's wait for this thing to calculate, because, you know, it's a big reactor. Oh my, that's the ticket. That's perfect. That, considering when most of the cooling blocks do something like 100 heat per block per tick, coming this close to being heat neutral this is an accomplishment, because if we look at this beforehand, we're at over 1.1 million heat per tick taken away. And with this fuel, we're going to get within 2,000, almost within 2,000 of having the perfect amount of heat dissipation. So that's really, really excellent. We're going to make 1.581 million RF per tick, which is awesome. So I'd say that's going to be our fuel of choice. So let's get rid of the rest of the fuels. That is fantastic. Let's see how much plutonium we have, because that's what we're going to be using. We have 1.2 million tiny clumps of plutonium-239 and 6.2 million of the plutonium-242, because that is the two different types of ingredients that we need to make that fuel. It's LEP-239 oxide. It's 1 plutonium-239 and 8 plutonium-242s. So that is excellent. That is beyond excellent. So what I'm going to do now is let's actually hook this up so that it can output power into my grid. And this cryostabilized flux duct is connected to my main grid that leads all the way back to my main base. So what I'm going to do is grab some flux duct here, and we are going to connect that up. And that's pretty simple, to be honest. We just need to run this over. And actually, I'm going to reroute that over there. Okay, cool. Now I need to get some things into... I'm going to use crafters is how I'm going to do this. And let's do... You know what? Are there any crafters that don't use power? I think they all use power, so... any of the good ones anyways. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to get some item conduit. And actually, I might need to make some more of that, because we are going to export the mini plutoniums, because I don't want to put a lot of load on my applied energistic system. I don't want the applied energistic system to have to craft all this stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to export the individual ingredients to a couple of crafters to actually make the larger ingredients that we need, and then make the fuel. If you can follow that, I'll just build it out. Okay, so the nearest one here, this will be the actual fuel will be made here. So this will be insert, this will be extract over here, always on, and then we will need to provide power, and we can do power in the bottom. We need this to be an insert, because we will have a couple of crafters here and here, and these will be extract only. And then our export buses, actually I need some conduit first off, or covered cable, that is. Let's grab some. Is this orange? I thought it was yellow. It is yellow. Can't use... Okay, so let's just look for yellow. Let's do this. Okay, looks like I'm going to have to manually make this, like a chump. Okay, that will work. Okay, so how this is going to work, we're going to export plutonium-239 over here. And let's put in some acceleration cards, and then plutonium-242 over here with acceleration cards as well. And then we just need to link this up to the applied energistic system. And we can do that right like this. Okay, so that should take a second to actually link up. And the next thing we need to do is we need to get power into all of these crafters. And for that, let's grab an energy cell and a conversion kit. And I grabbed the wrong thing. Energy cell conversion kit, and then we need some conduit. Some ender energy conduit would be fantastic. And then we can put this energy cell, let's put it right here. Let's slap this on it. and then it needs to be input from everywhere, except it needs to be output to the, let's do to the left. And then we can run our energy conduit right here, like that. And that should provide power to these crafters here. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to simply wait on those export buses to become active. I'm not really sure why they're not active quite yet, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off camera and wait for them to become active. And I'm actually going to look down at my my conduit, my underground conduit, to make sure I don't have any problems there. But once the import bus or the export buses are, let me make sure. Yes, export buses are connected to the Applied Energetic System. I will be right back to finish up this build. Okay, the export buses are active. I didn't have any problems in any of my lines or anything. It just was taking its sweet time connecting up to the system. So now what we have to do is we need to make the recipes for the larger clumps of the plutoniums, and we'll get that underway real fast. Hit apply, and there we go. We should have a bunch of plutonium here. Now in this crafter right here, I need to carefully do this. What I want to do is up on the top, I want just a few slots of plutonium-39, and then the rest I want to be plutonium-242. And that's because the actual recipe, and let's hit the remember button. That's why I'm plotting everything out real early. But if we remember the recipe here, it is 1 plutonium-239 with the rest of it being plutonium-242. So that's going to be our recipe. Since I hit the remember button, it will only accept so much plutonium-239 before it will not accept anymore. So that's cool. So now we should have some plutonium or some LAP-239 flowing into here. What we can do is we can grab a lever and we can power this guy on. I really hope I don't like crash the server or anything when I do this, but here we go. Yeah, one thing I totally forgot is I need to get this depleted fuel out of the reactor, and it burns through fuel like crazy. Oh my goodness. So let's go ahead and do that. We need an import bus. And you know what? I'm going to throw in some acceleration cards just because I don't super think I need them, but I'm going to grab them anyways. I need some covered cable of the yellow variety, and then I also want a facade of grass and ME conduit here. 1 ME conduit. And how we're going to link this up is import bus right there. And then we'll just not fall in the giant hole. We will put our ME conduit right here with our facade, and then that will be cool. So once this links up, it should start pulling out the depleted fuel. But anyways, I definitely consider this a completed awesome build. So hopefully you enjoyed it. So in today's episode, I built this awesome big reactor, or this, I shouldn't say big reactor because big reactor is a mod in and of itself. But I completed this fission reactor from the mod NuclearCraft. It is the largest size you can make using the default configuration file for the mod NuclearCraft. And this particular reactor can produce 1,581,000 RF per tick, which is absolutely crazy. It's one of the bigger energy generating things I've ever made, in addition to some of the things I've built in the last couple episodes. But anyways, if you like this episode, definitely give it a like. If you enjoy watching automation and modded Minecraft, that's usually kind of what I do, so definitely consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. Anyways, signing off, I am Minecraft Phenom 08, and I will see you next time.